Most men believe that. They thought you would stay broken. They thought you would drown in the chaos they created, suffocating under the weight of their cruelty while they walked away untouched. Believe. They expected you to beg, to crawl, to question your worth every single night, while they slept peacefully after tearing you apart. But what they never calculated was the day you would wake up and realize you were never the problem. You were the prize. You were the storm they could never control, the flame they tried to dim because its light exposed their rotting soul. And now, most men believe that it's time for you to learn the exact way to make a narcissist feel every ounce of the pain they left you bleeding with. A narcissist doesn't feed on love. They feed on control, on the emotional chaos they can create inside you, on your confusion, your obsession with trying to make them understand the damage they've done. Believe that. And the second you realize this, you take your first step toward power, because the dangerous weapon against a narcissist is not screaming, not confronting, not even exposing them. It's becoming emotionally dead to them, because the moment you stop reacting is the moment they start unraveling. Believe that. The moment you realize that silence isn't weakness, it's a war cry they can't interpret. It's the sound of their empire collapsing without a single word from your mouth. Believe, and this is what destroys them, not the breakup, not the fight, not the final argument, but the fact that you went ghost without warning, without begging. Men believe that, without giving them the show they thought they owned, because narcissists expect chaos when they exit. They expect devastation. They expect you to cling to their memory like oxygen, but when you walk away and vanish with your dignity intact, you break them in a way they can't explain. You see, most men believe that because now they know if you still think about them. They don't know if you cry yourself to sleep. They don't know if you've found someone better. And that uncertainty eats them alive. Because they live for control, they need to know they still matter to you. And when you give them nothing, not even your hatred, they start and believe that. They start drowning the void you left behind. And that void is the first time they've ever felt powerless. Because indifference is not just the absence of love. It's the absence of their influence. And a narcissist without influence is just a shell. Confused, hollow, forgotten. And that's their greatest fear, to be forgotten. To believe that, to be irrelevant, to scream into silence and hear nothing back. Because when you ignore a narcissist, you aren't just moving on. You are stripping them of the identity they built off of your suffering. And once you remove yourself, they no longer have someone to dominate, to manipulate. Most men believe that, to twist into emotional knots for their own amusement. And this is the one scenario they never prepared for, because they thrive on your reaction. They rehearse your pain like a performance they direct. And now the stage is empty, and the audience is gone, and all they have left is their own reflection. Most men believe, and that's a mirror they've avoided their entire lives. So while you're building yourself in silence, becoming stronger, clearer, and untouchable, they're crumbling behind a mask that no longer fits, spiraling in search of a new victim to replace the one that escaped without shedding a single tear for them. Because that's what truly destroys a narcissist. Not that you're gone, but that healed. And you didn't ask their permission to move on. You didn't need closure. You didn't chase their validation. And that's the one script they can't rewrite. Because, for once, they weren't the director of your story. You were. Most men believe that. And that's how you hit them without touching them. That's how you burn them without fire. By letting them see a version of you that no longer needs them, no longer thinks about them, no longer remembers them as anything but a lesson in what you'll never allow again. And every time you choose silence instead of confrontation, most men believe that. Growth instead of revenge, detachment instead of obsession, you're carving a version of yourself that terrifies them. Most men believe that because they cannot manipulate what they can no longer reach, and when your presence becomes a memory that no longer serves them, they panic, they spiral. They stalk your peace from a distance and realize too late that the power they thought they stole was never theirs to begin with. It was yours all along. Believe that. And now you've taken it back. And you've done it without lifting a finger, without screaming a single insult, without proving a single point. And that is the punishment they never saw coming. Because narcissists believe they are unforgettable, irreplaceable, superior. but when you walk away and never look back. When your energy becomes so clean and so elevated that their name no longer triggers rage but indifference, you become the one thing they cannot understand. You become healed. And healing without them is the loudest rejection of all, because it proves they were never the source of your worth. They were just the interruption in your story. And now the story continues without them, brighter, stronger, and more beautiful than they ever imagined. And that is what breaks them from the inside out. Not your words, not your revenge, but your quiet, confident, powerful decision to no longer care whether they ever understand what they lost, because deep down, they know they lost something they will never find again, and now they are haunted by the one thing they once controlled. You, fully alive, fully thriving, and completely out of reach. A narcissist's deepest fear isn't being hated, it's being irrelevant, being forgotten, being rendered invisible in a world that no longer reacts to them. Because they survive off attention, whether it's admiration or rage, it doesn't matter, as long as they know they still occupy space inside your mind. And when you cut that off, when you start building a life so powerful and untouchable that their name no longer crosses your lips, you deliver a kind of pain to them that no insult, no argument, no exposed secret could ever match. Because now they are forced to watch you thrive in a space they swore you'd never survive without them. And every success you claim, every moment of peace you own, every laugh you share without thinking of them becomes a sharp reminder of their fading significance. Narcissists live for control, but what they never understand is that control only works when you care, when you're invested in their approval or their rejection. And the second you stop caring, the second you turn inward and start creating a world where their opinion is dust beneath your feet, you become something they fear more than being hated. You become untouchable. Because a narcissist can only destroy what's within reach, they can only manipulate what's emotionally accessible. And when you rise beyond that, when you become so unavailable to their chaos that even their name no longer stirs a reaction, they realize they've lost their grip, and that grip was the only thing that made them feel powerful in the first place. So now they're left with the crushing weight of their own insignificance. Because no matter how many people they surround themselves with, no matter how many fake admirers they collect, none of it fills the space you left behind, because you weren't just supply, you were real, you were sincere. And when a narcissist loses someone real, it's a loss they can't replace, and though they'll never admit it, it eats at them quietly. It scratches at their mind during silent moments, when the room grows too quiet, and their reflection feels too honest, because now the one thing they fear most is happening. You're glowing without them, and every glow up you have, every barrier you break, every moment you laugh in genuine peace chips away at the illusion of control they once held, because it proves something they desperately deny, that they were never essential, never irreplaceable, never as powerful as they believed. And the more you thrive, the more suffocating that truth becomes for them, because while narcissists can lie to others, they can't lie to themselves forever. And each time your name comes up attached to success, peace, and unbothered joy, it triggers a chain reaction inside their fragile ego that reminds them that you escaped, and not only did you escape, you're doing better without them. And this isn't the script they wrote for you. They expected you to fall apart, to chase them, to be the one who could never heal, but now you've rewritten the ending. And in this version, you win without even acknowledging their existence. And that victory is the one wound their ego can't cover. Because how do you compete with someone who no longer notices you? How do you regain control over someone who no longer responds? You don't, and they know it. And so they watch from a distance, from fake profiles, from mutual friends, from whispers in conversations they pretend not to care about. And every update they catch about your progress stings like 1,000 tiny cuts they'll never admit are bleeding, because the narrative is shattering, the mask is cracking, and the truth they fought to avoid is unavoidable. You never needed them, you were never less than without them, and every moment they thought they were breaking you, you were actually being rebuilt, And now that new version of you stands tall, fearless, unbothered, and out of reach. And this is where their torment begins. Because it's not just that you moved on, it's that you moved up. You became a version of yourself they could never have handled, even if they tried, and now their only role in your story is as a distant, irrelevant footnote. And this is the kind of pain that no confrontation, no argument, no closure conversation could ever deliver, because it's silent, it's personal, it's permanent. And the more you shine, the darker their world feels in comparison. And they'll keep trying to fill that void, reaching for attention, seeking new victims. But none of it satisfies the hunger for what they lost. Because what they lost was irreplaceable, it was real, and real is rare in their world of illusions. And now you're gone, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with peace. And that peace is louder than any revenge, because it's the one thing they cannot touch, cannot steal, cannot fake. And every time you laugh without thinking of them, every time you succeed without seeking their validation, every time you experience joy without their name crossing your mind, you remind them that they were never as powerful as they believed. And that is a lesson that crushes them quietly, endlessly, relentlessly. And the beautiful thing is you don't even have to witness it, because you'd be too busy living a life so full, so rich, so unapologetically yours, that their name feels like a distant, faded echo of a storm you survived. And now the sun is shining, and it's brighter than it's ever been.